Today, in this hearing, we're going to examine the priorities for the coming fiscal year for the Federal Emergency Management Agency that I'll refer to as FEMA going forward, and hear from the Administrator, Deanne Criswell, the administration or the agency's first female leader. And thank you very much for being here, and congratulations. I look forward to hearing how Administrator Criswell and her team plan to convert the priorities of President Biden's fiscal year 2022 budget into measurable improvements in FEMA's administration of emergency assistance, disaster relief, mitigation, and resilience. In March of last year, we held a similar hearing with former Administrator Gaynor. This was 2 days before President Trump invoked the Stafford Act to grant emergency declarations to each state and territory to provide assistance to combat the COVID-19 pandemic as it quickly spread across the country. At that time, I don't think any of us could have imagined FEMA would be tapped just a month later to plan and conduct an airlift in coordination with the Department of Defense and the private sector to bring staggering volumes of personal protective equipment from all over the world into this country. Since that time, FEMA has helped multiple states utilize, tragically, refrigerated tractor trailers to serve as makeshift mortuaries, and has set up the Lost Wages Assistance Program to provide additional jobless aid to those impacted by the pandemic's economic impact. At the same time, they were dealing with record-setting hurricane and wildfire seasons and processing an unprecedented number of reimbursement requests from eligible grantees and sub-grantees. In fact, the statistics showed that there were more unique requesters in the last year alone than there were in the agency's first 4 decades of existence. You can imagine how overwhelming that must have been. And these are just the most immediate issues that Administrator Criswell will be tasked with having to address and get us through. While the agency's accomplished a lot since March 2020, including helping state, local, tribal, and territorial partners fully vaccinate more than 150 million Americans, and that was just in the last 6 months, many of the problems that deserve FEMA's attention were pre-pandemic, and so we must not forget about addressing those now as well. Fortunately, the administrator is no stranger to FEMA, nor to being challenged shortly after stepping into a new leadership role. What an impressive resume she has. She served with distinction at FEMA as a federal coordinating officer and at the lead for one of the agency's elite national incident management assistant teams. Just days after taking the helm of New York City's emergency management, a blackout struck Manhattan, stranding hundreds of elevators and subways and wreaking havoc over a large part of the island. That must have, I cannot even imagine if those were my constituents calling me from a locked-in elevator. We look forward to hearing from you based on that experience and your talent and your knowledge. I don't expect you to have solved all of the challenges in just your first 8 weeks leading FEMA, but we're hopeful that we can learn more about your plans to address the foundational challenges facing FEMA. Some of those are adjudicating the backlog of reimbursements due to states and local governments under the Public Assistance Program, tackling the inequities of the Individual Assistance Program, recruiting and retaining a qualified, compassionate, and competent disaster workforce to provide timely aid, allocating resources to better invest in mitigation and resilience before danger strikes our communities, so they'll be able to get back up on their feet faster and with less expense following a disaster. We must build back better, not make the same mistakes of the past, even if it seems like it would be quicker or cheaper in the short run. I expect we'll touch on many of these tasks during today's hearings, and we'll learn how the President's budget request will contribute to some of those challenges we see facing the agency. I'll close by saying we recognize the challenges you face, Administrator Criswell, and we are here because we want you to be successful in that job. And we also want to hear from you so we can ensure that you have the resources and authorities that you need to get the job done and done right for survivors and their impacted communities. So thank you very much, and I'll now recognize the ranking member for his opening statement.
Thank you, Chair Titus, and